Get Rich Education is brought to you by Ridge Lending Group, the Real Asset Investor, and Corporate Direct. Cash flow real estate investors, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Did you know that you can finance up to 35 income properties all with one lender? Ridge Lending Group specializes in investment property loans, and they do it in almost every U.S. state. Ridge has worked with tens of thousands of real estate investors and homeowners all over the country. They've been doing this for investors for so long that at this point, they've helped more families realize their dreams of becoming real estate investors than any other mortgage lender in the country. To find out more, visit ridgelendinggroup.com.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
You are inside Get Rich Education episode 112. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, and I'm back for another week because I've got that drive to help you build your wealth today. Yes, my slack-jawed act is back on track, but my slack-jawed act is still slack. Man, I'll tell you, I've got some rhymes this week. All that rap music I listened to as a kid is really paying off now. I must be in a silly mood today. You know what's actually silly is that most people spend all week at work, and they spend all this time learning about how work works. They don't spend any time learning about how money works, and yet money is the only reason that people go to work. That is like the usual. That is situation normal. I mean, man, talk about instead do the right things, then do things right. Well, the common thought pattern is completely incongruent with people's resultant behavior, and people end up doing something that they're either not passionate about, they toil at something divergent from their own self-interest, and often divergent from their best and highest use. So therefore, yeah, I actually want you to be unusual. Yes, I want you to be unusual. Don't be strange, but be unusual, okay? The usual gets you a lower quality of life, and being strategically, yes, unusual provides you with a rewarding higher quality of life. The usual is intentionally reducing one's income to participate in an employer-sponsored defined contribution plan like a 401k, 403b, or a 457 plan. The unusual is intentionally deciding to increase your income with cash-flowing assets. That makes being unusual sound a lot better, doesn't it? Well, today I'm going to discuss, just for a few minutes, talking about the history of the kind of formation of 401k plans in the early 1980s. And oh man, there's just one statement that, drives me completely nuts. And I've heard it a couple times in my life, and maybe you have too. Here it is, and oh my gosh, there are just so many things about this statement that would demonstrate that the person saying this is just really financially uneducated, okay? They're not dumb, just quite financially uneducated, and that is this sentence right here. Hey, if you keep socking away money in your 401k, you're guaranteed to be a millionaire. Oh, geez, dude, you're wearing me out with that scarcity-minded stuff. Oh, I barely know where to begin with breaking down that sentence, okay? If you keep socking away money in your 401k, you're guaranteed to be a millionaire. All right, well, first of all, that sentence could be completely correct, factual, 100% accurate. That might very well make you a millionaire. So the content is correct. It is the context inferred here that is fatally flawed. Okay, the word millionaire, that used to be a societal wealth marker. Inflation has already diluted the significance of millionaire status, and it's only going to continue to do so. If you retire with a net worth of just $1 million, how long would that really last you without any additional passive cash flow? Not for long. And you'd probably be eating frozen pot pies and canned peas, okay? Millionaire, that word, that has a net worth connotation. That's just assets minus liabilities, which says nothing about your passive cash flow. No one ever got rich saving money. You won't shrink your way to wealth, and you effectively multiply this shrinking effect when you actually choose to reduce your salary in a 401k plan. Yeah, you choose to reduce your salary in a 401k plan. I mean, someone that gets excited about a 401k making them a millionaire, they are dealing with an outdated mindset on so many levels. I mean, so outdated. You know, they're probably wearing a bolo tie on the weekends too. Irrelevant, outdated, like they've got a Windows phone in their pocket too, okay? Outdated, all right? Look, I think that a course of events for you throughout your lifetime, as you weigh your time versus money decisions and allocate your resources and your energies over time, it might very well be something like this. Okay, by age 30, you know how to have enough income without working for it. If you're not working at a job that you love, it is like sandpaper on your soul, and it's feeling awfully abrasive by the time that you're age 30. But you learned about how to have income without working for it, and then by the time you're age 40, you've built enough passive income that you're out. So by 30, you know about passive income, and by 40, you've got enough of it. Or maybe it doesn't take you 10 years. It only takes you 8 years because you begin at 24 and then you're out at age 32 or something like that. But I think the 30 to 40 thing, that's kind of a more common path for people that know about passive income and actually take some effort to make it happen. And, you know, it's just amazing how humans get conditioned to thinking instead that Wall Street, stock, bond, and mutual fund investing is just something that ought to be done. So really the problem is not the problem. The problem is how they think about the problem, or they don't even recognize it as a problem. And we are a product of our environment. People, sheeple, everyone else seems to be investing in stocks when they have some expendable income. So we think that we should too. Well, that's typically not true. That's dangerous. Wall Street spends billions of marketing dollars annually to condition your mind to think that stock investing is what you need to do. And you know what? Wall Street actually is pretty successful at this. Wall Street is the establishment. They've just got more marketing power than, for example, some turnkey real estate investing companies that we've had on the show here from Little Rock or Dallas or Memphis or Atlanta. Well, what has the success of Wall Street marketing produced? Well, there's a few outcomes. Here's a few, really. I mean, number one, there is a retirement crisis in America. People can't afford to retire. That's one result that's surfaced from this now, okay? Secondly, you know, when people just say the word the market in everyday conversation at the water cooler, when they say the market, people just assume that that means the stock market. That's how much this marketing and this immersion has conditioned everyone's mind. And really, thirdly, even though it's kind of a colloquialism to hear that real estate has made more ordinary people wealthy than anything else, the masses still stick with stocks and 401ks because that's what people already know and discussed. 401k contributions can be automatically deducted from your paycheck. Auto enrollment, super easy. If you don't act, it just gets done for you. Well, it's kind of like the Mark Twain quote again. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. What if mainstream commercialism advertised turnkey real estate? Okay, can you imagine that? And they somehow took those deductions toward a turnkey real estate down payment from your paycheck. Your employer probably wouldn't even like that because with enough passive cash flow, you could soon make your job expendable. The creator of the 401k, Ted Benna, Benna, he's the man, he's the one that really began to make 401ks I guess, user-friendly in the year 1980, and it was in 1981 that the IRS clarified earlier rules allowing the funding of 401k plans directly through employee salary reductions. And you know what? About this time, the early 1980s, as these plans were being kind of defined and refined, an early name of these plans, and this name was soon scrapped, okay? Get this, 401ks were referred to as salary reduction plans. Salary reduction plans. I mean, can you imagine that? They had to scrap the name in order to get more people to participate because they couldn't possibly call the 401k what it principally does, which is reduce your salary. Yes, it was called a salary reduction plan. Well, the biggest 401k regulatory hurdle at the time, it was that plan administrators, they really needed the IRS's blessing to reduce employee wages in order to put money into tax-deferred accounts. And then by 1982, you had some of these bigger, more established companies like Johnson & Johnson, PepsiCo, Honeywell. They were all offering these plans to their employees. Then by 1983, quickly, you had nearly half of all large employers that either offered a 401k plan or considered offering one. And then the Tax Reform Act of 1984, that further refined 401k plans. And if you fast forward 12 more years to 1996, 401ks had over 30 million participants by that point. If you go ahead and fast forward another 10 years up to 2006, and then it was the Pension Protection Act of 2006 that allowed employers to automatically enroll employees in 401k plans and even go ahead and offer those underwhelming target date mutual funds as the default option for a lot of them too. Okay, so therefore, you actually need to opt out of the 401k plan or else you will be participating in what I like to call the life deferral plan, okay? Because deferring life, that's the more significant act in your life. It's not the tax deferral part of a 401k. It's that you're deferring life and the consumption and the use and the benefit of that income until some later year when you're old. With employers being allowed to automatically enroll you in a 401k, which we can also call a salary reduction plan, you need to have an awareness of where your dollars are going if you're still trading your time for dollars in the E quadrant as an employee yourself. And interestingly, Benna, who lived in suburban Philadelphia, he outsourced the actual investing component of the vehicle to the Vanguard Group, and they're still based in that area, Vanguard. They're still a mutual fund giant today. And why did the 401k idea spread so quickly back in the 1980s? Well, it's because employers could now put the onus on you to fund your retirement, and they could taper away from pensions where that onus was previously on the company instead. Pensions, they are and they were defined benefit plans where your retirement benefit was kind of expressly stated to you right upon employment if you worked your whole career there. Well, employers are bottom line driven. They're corporations, they're businesses. If they have the latitude, the law, and the IRS code on their side to shift the responsibility over onto you instead, they'll do that quickly, and they sure did with 401ks. Now, closer to the genesis of the 401k in the early 1980s, dollar-for-dollar matches were more common than they are today, too. They've tapered away such that they've almost completely disappeared. Dollar-for-dollar match means that if you contributed, say, $6,000 in a year to your 401k, your employer would match that by putting $6,000 of their dollars in your account, such that your 401k account would have $12,000 contributed to it in that year. Well, that's largely gone. And by the way, I've said it before, if you have a dollar-per-dollar match, I actually might like you participating in the 401k only in that isolated instance, because that's like a guaranteed 100% rate of return. And, let's be reasonable here. I probably wouldn't walk away from that. Real estate is great, but let's not get too fanatical here. Now, Ted Benna, the person credited with the quote-unquote invention of the 401k, you know what? Ted Benna will even tell you himself. He actually said it 5 years ago. Ted Benna lamented that with the 401k, he created a monster that ought to be blown up. This is the creator of it himself. for more than 95% of people, 401ks crush dreams. They destroy your dreams. The real rate of return over time is zero or even worse. We're going to talk about that some more. Their most damaging effect is that they reduce your salary. They reduce your family's opportunity instead of creating cash flow. Let's listen to a snippet of what Wealth Factory founder Garrett Gunderson had to say about 401k plans when he was here on the show with me.
My first problem with the plan is it's 100% government controlled, so the government can change the rules. The second thing I have with the plan is you don't own the plan. Since the government does, you're a beneficiary. It says FBO, for benefit of. So they own the plan. You're the beneficiary of the plan. Number three is it doesn't actually save taxes. I mean, when I ask Keith, every time I speak, who thinks taxes are going up? Everyone raises their hand. Who thinks taxes are going down? One time I've had someone raise that taxes were going down.
Can't believe that even happened.
It was a CPA, by the way, which was just even better.
I'm not hiring him.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. That's because he's trying to live off the justification of deferring income. But deferral doesn't mean saving. And the only reason you pay less tax when you contribute to a 401k is because you didn't have constructive receipt of that money as a true earnings. The government kept hold of that money inside of the plan. So yes, you paid less tax, but the tax savings don't end up in your pocket. They're trapped inside of a plan that if you want that money back, you're already at a 10% disadvantage than if you had just paid the taxes up front. How crazy is that? Then, I mean, we could go through a number of things like the underlying investments, typically being really poor mutual funds that haven't performed. We've talked about the market heavily on this, but my biggest issue is there's no cash flow to this plan. So how are you going to achieve economic independence? And what it does is it lulls people to sleep so that they don't know whether it's really working or not until it's too late. When they get to retirement, if this was their big plan, it's underfunded and it's not doing a good job.
Yeah, and Garrett's talking about the 10% early withdrawal penalty there. You can listen to Garrett and I discuss 401k plans and how terrible they are and more in that episode there. That was episode 92, 20 weeks ago. The big thing Garrett hits on, which is the same thing I've long contended, is that this is a zero cash flow plan. That's really the big takeaway. 401ks don't produce income until you're in your golden years. So, in fact, I don't even think that you can call saving in a 401k investing. Well, you can't. Creating cash flow is what investing is. 401ks are speculative. Cash flowing vehicles are mediums of investing. And they increase your salary, not reduce it. So, with looking at 401ks, I think some people get so bogged down into the nuance, into the little fees and the 12B1 fees, for example, which are marketing fees that you pay and all the other little fees. But the big picture is that you're deferring life. I mean, in short, it's the big picture that really matters. And that really just comes down to this. 401ks reduce your salary in young age, reduce your salary in middle age, and then defer that salary to old age. Instead, cash flowing real assets increase your salary at a young age, increase your salary in middle age, and increase your salary in old age. Some people try to defend 401ks as smart because rather than paying a higher ordinary income tax during your working years when your salary's higher, you can instead pay a lower ordinary income tax rate when you pull that money out on the back end because your income's going to be lower in retirement. Well, geez, this is just awful planning too, because you're planning to be poor in retirement then. Rich Dad Advisor Tom Wheelwright comes on here with me and laments the same thing. I mean, geez, are we planning for prosperity in life or planning for poverty in life? We have a choice here, okay? And if you subscribe to that, you're still deferring life until someday, which is a day that doesn't always come. I'll be back with more. This is Get Rich Education. As a lot of investors know, multifamily real estate has been one of the best asset classes to be invested in most of the last decade. While the great deals have been harder to find lately, there are still opportunities in select markets where savvy investors can get lots of appreciation and strong cash flow if you have a great team. Dave Zook, founder and president of The Real Asset Investor, and his team have been very active in the multifamily space in Memphis, Tennessee. On the heels of the Great Recession of 2009, Dave and his team quietly started acquiring multifamily assets, and in the last few years, he has syndicated over 2,000 apartment units, creating strong cash flow streams and big appreciation for lots of their investors. It's not too late to get involved. If you're an accredited investor and you would like to learn more about investing in great multifamily apartments with a world-class team, email Dave and his team at info@therealassetinvestor.com.
You've worked hard to acquire real estate. Don't lose it in a blue instant. We live in a litigious society. Assets must be protected. Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton founded Corporate Direct to provide strong and effective asset protection for all investors in America. Corporate Direct offers personalized attention to your specific situation and is very affordable. Call 800-600-1760 and mention Get Rich Education for a $100 discount on all formations. Garrett Sutton wrote Loopholes of Real Estate, Start Your Own Corporation, and Toxic Client, among other bestsellers. He and his experienced team at Corporate Direct want you to be protected right now and with proper corporate maintenance into the future. Visit corporatedirect.com today for a free incorporation kit or call 800-600-1760 for your Get Rich discount. That's corporatedirect.com at 800-600-1760.
Hey everybody, this is Matt Bowles from Maverick Investor Group. You're listening to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, and don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. There's a lot going on here at GRE. We've got some great shows coming up for you over the next few weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about cash flow lending, how you can get a decent, stable cash flowing return by investing in mortgage notes, where you effectively act as the bank rather than the borrower. The week after that, geopolitical strategist Peter Zion is going to return to the show to discuss U.S. geography and real estate investing. That was so interesting the first time he was here. You're probably going to want to be looking at a map when you listen to that show. The following week, we're going to answer the question, does becoming a real estate agent help you land the good real estate deals? Because, in some states, it's not difficult to get your license. So we're going to explore how that can help you or not. And then the week after that, 4 weeks from now, Rich Dad advisor Tom Wheelwright is going to join me for his 5th GRE appearance. And he's going to tell us about Donald Trump's tax plan for the United States and just how that affects you, both as a citizen and as a real estate investor. So back to today. In a sense, you're being robbed by your 401k. It stifles your current opportunity, and at the same time, it won't make you feel rich in retirement either. You've been robbed. You lose now and you lose later. And, you're being robbed somewhere else too. I wrote an article for the Rich Dad Advisors a while back called The Secret Monthly Bill That You Didn't Know You Pay. And it made me think about you and how you think about your wealth. So I thought I would share it here with you because it's really sort of another way that you're being robbed. And you can read all of my articles at getricheducation.com/blog. My articles are also published on the Rich Dad Advisors website, where since July, I've been really honored to be invited to write alongside a lot of those people whose Rich Dad books I grew up reading, like Ken McElroy, Garrett Sutton, Blair Singer, and Tom Wheelwright. And before we talk about getting robbed again, by the way, I'm in Dallas, Texas today. I just flew in here earlier today, and I'm in North Dallas now, in fact. Tomorrow, a local real estate provider and I are going to look at investment property together, income property, and I want to see how much cash flow you can still find here in Dallas-Fort Worth. You can find out more about just what I'm looking for here and find out about the provider as well just by opting in at getricheducation.com/Texas. And then later on, after I've had my tour, I'll try to give you an update on what I see here, either on the air here, or I'll tell you about it in our newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free at getricheducation.com. Bringing it back to the secret monthly bill that you didn't know that you pay here, and it's really remarkable how few people are aware of the fact that you are being robbed by an undercover thief and you don't even know it. So Let's learn about how you're being robbed, and then we're going to help you get on top of this problem. Over the past month, you had a number of routine bills flying in that you had to pay. Those might have included your electricity bill, your internet bill, your car payment, your property tax bill, your rent payment or your mortgage payment, your insurance bill, and a bunch more of them. But you know what? There's one bill that you've been paying every month of your life, even in childhood, yet you don't know it because you've never seen a monthly statement for it. You've never seen a bill for it. Your invisible bill that you've never seen is your inflation bill, and it affects you in deeper ways than you're really even thinking about. So inflation is why you paid 25 cents for a pack of Wrigley's gum or Donruss baseball cards when you were a kid, and you buy that same pack for $1.29 or more now. And look, this matters because I already know that you're an investor, okay? And how do I know that you're an investor? Because everybody is an investor. You're investing your time listening to me right now. As an investor, you need to know about more than simple return on investment, ROI, okay? What's your real ROI? Your real ROI is when you factor in inflation. And I'm just constantly floored at the number of investors and people in general that just don't consider inflation's diluting effect on their investment returns. And maybe that's because no one's ever seen a bill for it, okay? Inflation is kind of cloaked and veiled as invisible. Inflation, that's an increase in the currency supply, and that results in your diminished purchasing power over time. $1 today might have the purchasing power of just 95 cents next year. So what's your real ROI versus your nominal ROI? Okay, real versus nominal, that just refers to whether or not your return is inflation adjusted. Real accounts for inflation, nominal does not. Nominal means in name only. So let me give you an example. If you invest $100,000, okay, and in a year your 100K appreciates up to 105, you may have very well just eroded your wealth. Yeah, you actually heard that right. Okay, so that $5,000 gain, that didn't amplify your wealth. That eroded it. You just diminished your prosperity. Okay, well, how in the world could that possibly be true? Well, your ROI is 5% in the example. Well, that's only a nominal ROI. It isn't adjusted for inflation. Again, nominal means in name only. Well, let's say that inflation was also 5% during that same year to keep things real simple, okay? And the true rate of inflation is typically higher than what the government reports, but we're just going to put that aside. Well, if you now have 5% more dollars, but the purchasing power of all of your invested dollars is diluted by 5%, then you don't have any more prosperity than when you initiated your investment. Okay, but wait, I said that you actually lost prosperity. You didn't break even, but you lost. So you might be thinking, well, how could that possibly be true? And by the way, the currency denomination, of course, it doesn't matter either. All currencies are sliding on their way toward 100% worthlessness. So it diminishes the peso, the yen, the renminbi, the real, just the same, okay? That's bad enough, and it actually gets worse because unless you're tax sheltered, see, the IRS charges you capital gains tax on your nominal gain of $5,000. But wait, that wasn't a real gain. It was a gain in name only in our example here. But you see, taxation is not adjusted for inflation. Taxation is not adjusted for inflation. So you actually have to pay tax on your $5,000 phantom gain. A 25% tax bracket, that shaves your $5,000 phantom gain down to an effective $3,750 gain. So your after-tax gain on your $100,000 investment is just 3.75% then. Inflation was 5%. So you just lost prosperity because taxation is not adjusted for inflation. So the dollar's diluted purchasing power exceeded your after-tax return. That's the result. It's been happening to you all your life. So look, it's hard to state how important this is. This right here is exactly a huge reason that people think that they're getting ahead, while in reality, they're either treading water for decades or even falling behind. Treading investment water for decades, just staying in place, or even falling behind. Even if your stock return is 10% and inflation is 5%, your real ROI is merely the difference, 5%, and that's before it's even eroded with fees and taxes. So you're barely getting ahead if you even are at all. And look, this is a huge reason why there's a retirement crisis in the US and in a lot of developed nations too. Most stock brokers, most people trying to divert you into mutual funds, they don't even want to talk about inflation. And even in a 401k, you do pay tax. It's just deferred until later. When you have a problem in life, you know what the first step towards solving the problem is? Okay, you've got a problem here. It's recognizing that there is a problem. Well, what's the solution? The solution is invest in an investment class like real estate, where you have 5 profit centers at the same time. You're paid 5 ways at the same time. In that way, inflation adjusted real returns of anything less than about 20% is actually disappointing after you've adjusted for inflation. So that's really why I make real estate the center of our discussion here at GRE. So quit investing in buy and hold stocks for the long term. Just stop it. If you do what everyone else does, you're only going to have what everyone else has. Remember, we want to be a little bit unusual. Effectively, the stock market has to hit a new high every day just to keep up with inflation. Investment managers, they just don't want you to know about this because they're paid a percentage of your funds that they hold under their management. You're being robbed by a stealthy thief. It's stealing your future lifestyle, your experiences, and your opportunity. The stealthy thief is an invisible tax. It's named inflation. Now that you're aware of it and you know how to get on top of it, you can act. And the good news is that real estate cash flow, it typically increases at a rate faster than the rate of inflation when you have long-term fixed interest rate debt on a property. And, that gets a little bit numbers heavy to go describe in depth here on an audio show like this. What I did is I made a whiteboard video for you on that to show you just how that works. You can go to getricheducation.com/videos and watch that video there. I think I named it Cash Flow Beats Inflation. I think that's a video where I'm wearing this blue shirt, by the way, that's like 2 sizes too large for me. So sorry about that. But once you get over that, the content I deliver there in that whiteboard video with you is pretty good. So I made that video because I've never seen anyone else teach how real estate cash flow beats inflation over time. And again, that's at getricheducation.com/videos. So to wrap this up, you're really being robbed by 2 forces. One is inflation and the other is your 401k, which should really just as well be named a salary reduction plan because that's actually what it was originally called. Or my term, a life deferral plan. You're postponing life till some later date that might not even happen. And boy, if you want more details on all the 401k fees and just how destructive they are to your wealth and how destructive 401ks are to your family, just listen to Wealth Factory founder Garrett Gunderson and I discuss this on episode 92 if you did happen to miss that one. Boy, 401ks, man, knowing what to avoid, that can be as important as knowing what to attract in your life. I put an article about Ted Benna in the history of the 401k in the show notes for you in case you want to know more. And interesting, that guy, Ted Benna, he's in semi-retirement in Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania, a tiny speck of a town, which I've been in a number of times because it's not too far from where my parents live. I am sincerely grateful that you've chosen to tune in to hear me weekly because I know that you can do a lot of things with your time. That's why I try to be considerate of your time and give you a high return on time invested with valuable content during every listen of the show. If you want to hear more from me and consume it whenever it's convenient for you, subscribe to our free newsletter at getricheducation.com. And Each newsletter you're typically sent has news about the GRE podcast, usually a recent GRE blog article that I wrote, sometimes a short video that I appear in. Oftentimes in that newsletter, there might be another person's article or an infographic that I think will give you a new perspective on your wealth. And then there's typically an actionable resource for you too, and it's one that may or may not get discussed here on the show. One way for you to get a higher return on your time invested is to have specific turnkey real estate investing opportunities just delivered straight to you. That way you don't have to spend your time looking around for all these specific addresses. And yeah, we even provide you with the specific addresses of cash flowing property that might be right for you. A lot of GRE listeners found their first ever cash flowing property, their first ever passive income through an actionable opportunity in that GRE newsletter. Our 100% free newsletter is at getricheducation.com. You can subscribe either in your mobile browser or a full version computer. Well, I'm going to prepare to look at some Dallas real estate for you tomorrow. Have an abundant week. Until next week, you know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing all that I can to think about how I can help you build your wealth. Now go out there and don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Cash flow real estate investors nationwide and worldwide, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Forbes has rated Memphis, Tennessee as the #1 cash flowing market in the world. Our good friends at Mid-South Homebuyers have been Memphis's premier turnkey real estate provider for 14 years with a stellar reputation and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Owner Terry Kerr was born and raised in Memphis. Yeah, he knows the market and has renovated and sold over 1,000 houses in the Memphis area. Find out what their many repeat buyers already know. Their houses are completely renovated, even come with a 1-year builder's warranty and a lifelong rental guarantee. They're a perfect fit for the first-time out-of-state investor or the seasoned investor diversifying their portfolio. Mid-South Homebuyers' friendly staff makes investing easy. Learn more at midsouthhomebuyers.com or give them a call at 901-217-HOME. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.